sucks.
The Lost Art with Andrew Cox podcast. Marine Corps League and Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. Now streaming on all major podcast platforms. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast that has given a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having a special guest, James McCook, Sergeant Major retired. But before we get into the episode, are you enjoying the podcast? And make sure you go to the website. That's thelostart.podbean.com. Go check us out, see what we're all about. There is a merchandise tab. You can click on that. You can get you a cool shirt. You can get you a cool hat, a cup. Maybe a sweatshirt is more of along the lines that you might want, but anything you get helps us in getting our veteran voices out for all to hear. Also, I want to give a big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project out there doing amazing things. If you don't know anything about them, go to their website. That's tillvalhallaproject.com. And as always, for you Marines out there, there's a place for you once you get out. That's right. It's the Marine Corps League. They're trying to get their numbers up, so go check them out, mcleague.org. Sign up and just become one of the members. Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps Veteran Service Organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member. All right, we're back. I got James McCook here. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I get to sit here and listen to your story. It's gonna be good.
Well, don't oversell
it. No, come on. It's fantastic. Last time that I think I saw you was when we were on the depot together, if I'm not mistaken. We might have seen each other once or twice after, but
well, I will. Then I'll have to correct you.
Yeah. All right.
Bella Wood.
Was it?
When I was in Germany.
Oh, that's right.
You came over for the Memorial Day weekend.
That's right. I do remember that. Yeah.
Drum major? Was it?
Drum major.
Yeah.
I was a drum major. Yeah.
The only thing is I was looking around all my pictures, and there was a picture of you all together with your blues on.
Yeah.
You were looking sharp, and that was the last time I physically saw you.
Yeah, that's funny. I forgot all about Bella Wood and seeing you there. I should go back and look at my pictures.
I got one. If I ever find it, I'll shoot it out your way.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, hey, let's start at the beginning for you. Like, where did you grow up? How was that? What was it like? And then what drew you to military service?
Well, so pretty basic. Born in New York. Most of my family's in the Bronx area. Of course, my family was the first one to move out of New York. Not sure if it was maybe some parental relative stuff, but we moved to Massachusetts.
Okay.
That's where I spent most of my younger years in through high school.
Right.
So, just doing that. We always still visited. It was a big family. We always still went back and forth to New York. But fast forward to now, most everybody, with a few exceptions, have moved on from that particular area where
I see.
Situated it. But not just normal, growing up. I'm not here to do my therapy session with functional family stuff. But being the oldest, little responsibility around the house, and
right.
Then a couple sports in high school, nothing big.
And you played football?
And some wrestling.
Oh, okay.
After high school, and I was always I'm not joining the service.
Oh, okay.
And when everybody said, "Hey, you going to join the service?" I said, "No, I'm going to go to college, get a degree, get a good job, blah, blah, blah." And that was the plan.
Yeah.
And I went to one semester of college, working in the supermarket, coaching football for 1 year after high school,
Mm-hmm.
and my grades were not very good. And of course, again, we're just a benefit of technology. Fast forward a few decades, where I finally went back to school and got my degree. But back
Yeah.
then, you go to school, you know which classes you can cut, or at least you thought you could cut.
Yeah.
You make up your assignments that you procrastinate on. And plus, it was all about partying too. And then I was on academic probation, so my
Oh.
grades weren't too good. Back to technology. Back then, all I had was a typewriter, right? So
Oh.
any
Yeah.
paper I'm typing, never mind the ribbon on the typewriter getting screwed up.
Yeah.
I'm sure my papers sucked, but
And
that
what year was that you were going
that
to
was
college?
84.
84. Okay.
84, and first semester, big, big, the tail end 84, and I would have had to go if I had gone back to school in 85, right after the
Mm-hmm.
new year. I would have been on academic probation,
Right.
and
Okay.
and of course I had a student loan, that
Oh, yeah.
whatever, you know, pay on. But I made a decision one day, and I said I'm not going back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, back then, the rule was as long as I went to school, I could stay at home. So
Oh, right.
I drove to a state college. Um, then I'd go to work, you know, coach football, then go to my evening job in the supermarket, right, stocking shelves.
Right.
And then, of course, I'm looking to still, have fun and party. So grades sucked, and I just made a decision. I'm not going back to school. So the first thing, my father says, he's passed away many years, but he said, "Hey, well, now you start paying rent." All right, I'll pay rent, right? But so the military thing's still not even on the radar.
Right.
I'm not going back to school. I'm just going to work until I figure it out. And then one day, I think I was waiting for a phone call. And once again, technology, right? Back
Right.
then, there was one phone in the house.
Yeah.
We got
Hanging on the wall.
one line. And my sister, she's a year younger than me. She's on the phone. And
Uh-huh.
I can't remember what it was, but I knew it was an important phone call I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
Could have been a job, could have been a potential date. Who knows? I don't know. But whoever she's talking to starts feeding her these lines. Oh,
Uh-huh.
you think you're so tough, just going on trying to push my buttons, right?
Yeah.
And she goes, "Well, if you think you're so tough, I got someone who wants to talk to you."
Uh-oh.
I kept telling her to get off the phone.
Yeah.
And then she hands me the phone. I go, "Hello?" He goes, "This is Staff Sergeant Rosemond, United States Marine Corps. You think you got what it takes, boy?" And he's from Alabama. He had a little accent.
Yeah.
How why is my sister talking to a Marine recruiter? That's another story. She's allegedly was dating a Marine from North Carolina. Of course, she meets his recruiter, and then
Yeah.
who knows what? I don't want to speculate, but I could speculate. But he told me, so yeah, well, you come on down tomorrow, and we'll see if you got what it takes, right?
Right.
So he does the whole sales pitch, right? I go down there, take the pre-test, pre-ASVAB or whatever they're doing. He says, "Oh, these are good scores, blah blah blah." Hey, I'll take you to lunch. Everything's on the government dime.
Right.
The vouchers, whatever. Then he has me looking through the book for potential jobs, and I would have initially been a reservist because I was thinking, all right, maybe I'll join the reserves
Mm-hmm.
and I'll get some money for school, and maybe I'll go back to school.
Yeah.
That was a short-lived thought. As I'm flipping through the book, I saw some other jobs. He said, "Well, how about this?" I said, "How about this?" He goes, "Well, that's an active duty billet or MOS, and that's a 6-year commitment." I
Mm.
said, "Okay." And I'm kind of making my mind up. And my best buddy growing up, he went down to the recruiter's office with me too,
Okay.
and he was always talking it up. We go out to parties. Hey, me and he called me Cook, right?
Yeah.
Cook, we're joining the Marines, right? So he talked it up. Unfortunately, he was medically unqualified, and then but I'm still pushing full steam ahead on this thing, and there's still a little talk. Well, you can still change your mind. The same thing. When I told my father, hey, I'm joining the Marine Corps, and he was former Navy, and he always has these aspirations like, well, I know people. Maybe you can go to Annapolis,
Oh,
join the
wow.
Navy.
Yeah.
And I said, why? This is before I even thought about military service, right?
Right.
I said, why would I give up 6 years of my life for the military, and then I turn around and enlist for a 6 year contract, and then 6 year active, 2 year active reserve.
Right.
So I signed up and I did that, and I'm sure like everyone else, you going through the recruiter stuff. Again, I give my dirty laundry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Anything.
back in the day, maybe smoking some weed, which nowadays is nothing, right? Everybody can do it.
Yeah.
I haven't. Well, the bottom line is I haven't touched this stuff since before I joined the Marine Corps back in
Yeah.
'85, right? But interestingly enough, there was one day where I had this little deal where some women, were smoking, and the next day my recruiter calls me up, like one last check-in. Hey, you're shipping out. I got to ask you one more time. You haven't smoked any, whatever, and I'm lying through my teeth. No,
No.
I'm wondering, did somebody tell this guy what I did?
Yeah.
And even in boot camp, I was a little nervous too because
Yeah.
back then they say you're going to be checked within 72 hours of arrival.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I was a Parris Island recruit, so I went to Parris Island, and in my mind, it's like within 72 hours you're going to be checked, meaning get a
Mm-hmm.
urinalysis. Didn't realize they could check back 30 days or whatever
Right.
to test. So at boot camp, there was one day where a senior drill instructor, called off a bunch of names and got them on the quarter deck, and they started thrashing them and told them they're basically getting kicked out of the Corps for popping on a urinalysis. But I wasn't one of them. So
Well, that's good.
I found that interesting. And the other part was the moment of truth. You get to boot camp,
Mm-hmm.
and my guilty conscience, I had an unpaid parking ticket. So they did. You get into this line of people that go tell some series commander what you
Right.
did wrong, and he's like, "What'd you do?" I got an unpaid parking ticket, but my sister's going to pay it for me. All right, get out of here. So,
I love it.
and beside that, I think everybody goes through the same thing. Uh, that first night of boot camp,
Mm-hmm.
you're second guess every decision you ever. Why am I
Right.
here? What am I doing? And then you hear the war stories about the one guy who keeps screwing up during the processing.
Mm-hmm.
At least in our case, you get there dead of night, and they had us in the classroom filling out paperwork, right?
Right.
And back then I wore glasses. And oh,
Okay.
by the way, my earpiece and my glass. I'm just remembering this as we're talking. But one of my ear pieces for my glasses, I don't know if I lost a screw or what, but I had a string tied from the other ear to like the front of the glasses.
Oh, nice.
And some drill instructor goes, "Oh, I know why you joined the Corps, to get a free pair of glasses." I'm like, "No, sir. No, sir."
That's pretty good.
Then the other one, when you're filling out paperwork, going back to like, I guess I'm going back to school, right? Whenever you're done doing something, the teacher would tell you when you're done, look up at the teacher or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Well, at boot camp, I made a mistake. As soon as I was done filling something out, I look up at the drill instructors, and they're like, "Get your nasty eyeballs off me," right? And they call me glasses, right? Because I wear glasses.
Right.
And as if you want to, just thinking about just that misnomer or the mystique of boot camp or not knowing what's really going on.
Right.
I remember standing on line. Well, one of the guys that was kept screwing up all night. The next day when we were getting like our initial issue, it's like they hogtied him and had the MPs haul him out. And then the rumor's going to be is, Oh, he was just a drill instructor pretending undercover to scare us. How he got hogtied and removed from the rest of us because that's what they're going to do. They're going to yank you out of there. And
Right.
they say that guy was a drill instructor just playing the role. I never saw that. Like when we were doing the drill field stuff,
Yeah.
we never staged anything like that I recall.
No,
But that might
no,
have been something
not.
they did.
I sure didn't do any of that.
But I had a guy. You stand on line in the squad bay, and
Hmm.
back then when you shave, you're supposed to not have any hair sticking over your skivvy shirt,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So a guy next to me, he says, "Do I have any hair sticking out over my chest?" I say, "Yeah, you got a couple." He goes, "Well, yank them out." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Because if you don't, they will." He thought they would really yank him out of his chest, right? So here I am plucking hairs off, 3 hairs off this guy. That's just one of my, you know,
Oh
stories,
man,
just recalling as far as
I
that
like
goes.
it, man. And now you didn't have any issues or anything in boot camp. It was pretty
No,
much
no,
smooth sailing, right?
no, one smooth sailing.
Okay.
One, I was always overweight for my height,
Okay.
and that could be another story I could talk about with the Marine Corps and their
Oh
height and
yeah.
weight standards and how I seen that go. Uh, but of course, I mean, hell, out of high school, I was like 195, and the
Oh wow.
Marine Corps wanted me to weigh, I think, 165, maybe
Right.
150, was something low. And I'd like to think I was a little physically active. Physically fit wise,
Hmm.
boot camp was pretty good. I probably struggled with the rope the first time up because I tried to muscle it. I
Oh yeah.
didn't even use my legs, didn't use my feet. I'm just getting a burn on my arms as a
Uh.
recruit. And then they gave me a little remedial rope climb, and then it was smooth sailing with the rope. Um, but I always had during the evening hygiene inspection, right? We have to say
Hmm.
this recruit has no personal or medical problems, you know.
Right.
And I would always have to go, this recruit has a medical problem, sir. And they're like, what's that? This recruit's overweight, sir. Finally, as we progressed in training, they told me, get back online. They just yell at me. And
Yeah. Yeah.
back then you take a step forward. It's like you had to take off your towel and hold it over your head and do a circle and tell them you got medical problems. I'm like, okay. But finally, they stopped messing with me about my weight um, until I got to my first duty station at school,
Hmm.
and
Well,
that's
it is much harder. Well, one for shorter individuals typically are going to have a harder time with it, or at least what I've seen.
yeah, it could be. And
Yeah.
I could fast forward a few decades to when I sat on the uh, Gunner Sergeant Selection Board,
Oh, okay.
and back then we're reviewing the packages, and I don't know if they did. I heard they went to this, but back then obviously we have pictures of everybody, right?
Hmm.
You got their pictures, you got all their fit reps, and this gentleman, he's a staff sergeant, right? He's trying to pick up gunny,
Yeah.
and somehow every fit rep, he's gaining an extra inch as his weight's going up.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, we're talking about what, people that are 30 years old or whatever. So it's kind of obvious that he was out of
That's
standards
that's
aside
pretty
from his
good.
photo. So I think he gained 5 inches, you know,
Right. That's
during the
quite a bit.
time. I'm sure it's not the most egregious example, but again, as a younger Marine, oh yeah, everywhere I went, the alternate max weight was the thing before they went to the
The
taping.
taping.
I
Yeah.
always had to go to medical. I always had to run a PFT. Always had to meet with the company commander through battalion commander to get approved. In fact,
Hmm.
there were some people hardliners. I don't give weight waivers. You know,
Oh, wow.
one time they tried to throw me on remedial PT when I was in school because the sergeant running the formation told me to go back with the run drops to stay with them to motivate them.
Hmm.
And by the time we got back to the schoolhouse, they're claiming I fell out of a run.
Oh
And
no.
I had to tell these dudes, look, and again, I was only running like 290s, PFTs back
Only
then,
only 290.
but they're like, I was pissed. Matter of fact, they said I was UA for remedial PT one morning,
Oh
and
no.
and fortunately I had a good platoon sergeant.
Hmm.
He called up. Well, it was actually a staff in COIC. He called up this sergeant who was calling around looking for me, saying I was UA from a remedial PT, based
Yeah.
off like sight unseen. You know, we're throwing him on because he was overweight for his height. And the staff sergeant said, "Hey, you tell Sergeant so and so that if he puts me on remedial PT, he better be on it too." So, so yeah, I went through those. I always went through those processes up until
Right.
literally till I was till as a staff NCO,
Oh
until the
wow.
Marine Corps changed the order
Hmm.
with their body fat. And I remember I was a gunny, all right, a newly promoted gunny,
Hmm.
and even though I had an alt max weight, I had to weigh in every week, according because the sergeant major. Ironic, right? Yeah, I was fortunate to become a sergeant major, but I still had a sergeant major who demanded that I had to weigh in every week,
Oh
and,
wow.
and if I was within 5 pounds of my alt max weight, then I'd be really scrutinized. And then the Marine
Holy
Corps
cow.
changed the order, so
Hmm.
then I didn't have to go through all the waivers, just as long as you tape out. And then
Right.
you're always got people nitpicking that too,
True.
or
Yeah.
they want you to go with the water thing or the caliper thing. There's so many. That'll be an ongoing conversation
Oh
for
yeah.
decades to come. So if I sound a little bitter when I get on that subject, but I'll go back to boot camp
Yeah.
real quick too. So in boot camp, I had a couple nicknames, and
Hmm.
I'm doing this for entertainment purposes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but one of my nicknames was the troll.
The troll.
The
O-
troll.
Okay.
Oh, maybe because I was short, uh, big
Very
feet,
nice.
whatever. But one time during PT, yeah, and they line us up by height, right? So I'm always at the little
Right.
end.
Right.
Um, so I'm in the back, and this other guy, we both, we're all have shaved heads. We both wear the BCGs,
Right.
the glasses, birth control glasses, black rims back then. Then they had frame of choices as you went on, but it was one of those ones where he, you're doing the side straddle hops, right, and you're
uh,
supposed to freeze on the last one, right, and
right.
then the guy next to me, he gives a little flinch, so the drill instructor comes down, you know, oh you don't know the count, you know, wasn't this recruit, sir, it was. He goes, oh, I suppose it was Snay. The guy's name was Snay. I just remembered that. I suppose it was recruit Snay. Yes, sir. And then another drill instructor. Well, this was a different. I had another nickname, Barney Rubble.
I love it.
So during a field week in boot camp in Paris Island, we hike out to wherever we're doing the field stuff.
Hmm.
We had the shelter halves, and the first night, on the hike out, my battle buddy or buddy, whatever, um, he got what stress fractures. So
Oh yeah.
I didn't have a bunkie or whatever. I, I literally like tied
So
my
you had.
shelter half to a tree, and it was pissing down rain on us. I'm getting wet as hell, and finally a drill instructor came over and goes, "Hey, the other platoon has someone that needs a buddy or someone else, so you're going to go to that platoon and spend the night in their bivouac with your shelter half." So the next day, I get back and they're like, "Hey, hey, McCook, I heard you had a girlfriend over in another platoon, right?" But here we go. We're out in the field. So we're out in the field and we're having a Sunday service. And they're asking for people to sing in the choir.
Okay.
And so we're in a formation. And a couple other recruits turn to me and go, "Oh, go ahead, McCook. You go sing in the choir or whatever." And I'm telling them, "Shut the hell up," right?
Yeah.
Of course, drill instructors come over. They see a little, back and forth in the formation. And he goes, "What's going on here?" And I'm like, "Hey, they're telling this recruit to sing in the choir, whatever." And I told him to shut up. So then this drill instructor comes over, the one that yelled at me with Snay back before. He comes over because we're like next to each other platoons. He goes, "Hey, I remember you. You're Barney Rubble. You had that problem with that other recruit." I'm like, "No, sir." But again, back to the troll story. Back in the squad bay, you're laying in bed at night. You're at the position of attention till they
Right.
give you the at ease and stuff. And I want to say we'd always sing, Marines have a verse or whatever it was, and the drill instructor would get on the foot lockers, and I was on the top bunk. My head's right there. He'd say, "Sing, troll," to start off the
Right.
verse. But
Well,
and
it
then
sounds like you had fun in boot camp.
no, I didn't have no. Oh, no, that's when I found out. They always talk about integrity, right?
Yeah.
Here's the day I got pissed off, right? So the squad leaders, they were having a lot of fun filling in the Firewatch roster, right?
hmm
Um, the drill instructors gave them that power. It wasn't no alphabet, whatever. So their deal was to build their Firewatch roster. They would find recruits who screwed up during the day, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So one day we get back from like evening chow, and they're like, "All right, squad leaders, who's staying in my Firewatch? Get them on my quarterdeck first. They're going to thrash us, right?" So the squad leader goes, "McCook, McCook, get up here, McCook." Yeah, he goes, "What did he do?" "Talking in line at the chow hall, sir." And I and
Oh,
I, and I, and I yell, I was pissed off. I was like, "No, sir." And then the drill instructor runs up on me and goes, "Somebody give you permission to speak?" "No, sir. This recruit wasn't talking." "Get on my quarterdeck," right? So the whole time I'm getting mountain climbing thrash, I'm glaring at the squad leader. I'm cursing him out. I mean, other recruits could hear me because I felt falsely accused. I mean, if I did it, I would
yeah.
have took the punishment, right? So that's when the illusion of
Oh, yeah.
integrity and everything started going out the window. So no, it wasn't all fun and games at all.
Right.
I didn't want to get recycled. They always hold that over your head, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, we're going to
Yeah.
send you home. You're going to get recycled. They called it casual platoon back then. Then
Ah,
you're going to go home.
nice.
You'll go home with a high and tight, and you can tell all your buddies you didn't make it.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
that stuff. So they ramp it up. So fear of failure was what drove me uh,
Right.
to fortunately make it. And
Yeah. So, you get through boot camp, and where was your school at?
Twin on Palms, California. So I
Twin
went from
Harbor.
the
So,
East Coast to the West Coast.
oh, wow. Okay.
The
So,
communication electronics school.
got it. Okay.
And
And
again,
how long is
well, that's
school
that's
for
like
that?
a it's like a good it's like almost a year. Some schools are longer, but it's almost
Wow.
virtually a year. And we had a couple of characters there. Um, this was one gunny. Um, Now the name's eluded me now that I threw it out there, but he was the gunny that would always try to run us into the ground,
Mm.
running up into sand, up behind
Yeah. Up
the
on the little hill back
yeah.
behind.
Back before there was operational risk management, you can just take people out and run them until
Right.
until they all dropped with no water. Yeah, just thrash them, and there's no repercussions. We had our liberties. We would have our liberties secured by some commanders. Because back then, yeah, you learn about this obviously as we go through, right?
Mm.
Fraternization.
Yeah.
I guess back in the '80s, uh, the instructors who were training the students, some of them may not have been very professional, so they're probably having relationships or whatever.
Mm.
To the extent of even going partying.
Oh,
And
wow.
I guess this one weekday, one of the schools was graduating,
hmm
so They went out to the Joshua Tree National Monument and trashed the place, broken beer
Oh,
bottles,
no.
burning trees, whatever the hell they did. So we have a it was a pretty big school, so it's almost like
Mhm.
a battalion size formation
Oh, wow.
out there on, call it the grinder, call it a big parking
Mhm.
lot, and the battalion commander would be out there, and he had these narcs going through the ranks, identifying people that were at the party,
Oh.
creating a separate formation of everyone who is going to potentially get a page 11.
Oh
There's
my
no
gosh.
EMI then. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody got NJP'd, but they got page 11s, loss of liberty, working parties to death
Oh my gosh.
on weekends. But somebody was writing, signing their name to the roster. They're passing a roster, all these people.
Right.
And he yelled at one of them. He told him, "You ain't right when I'm talking." And told us he's going to bury us so deep they'll have to pipe us sunlight. And it'll be a frosty day in hell before we see our next liberty. And so
That's a good one.
we lost one weekend to liberty, but some other folks, theirs was more continuous.
Right.
I gave you my school story with the remedial PT deal, and yeah, that's all water under the bridge. It's just a matter of getting through school and getting to
Mhm.
your first duty station, um, which in my
Oh,
case was Camp Pendleton.
okay. With who
Uh,
at Pendleton?
uh, yeah, back then, first FSSG, they probably go to
Okay.
MLG now.
Mhm.
And I was in the communications company, and back then, it was the '80s still, so
Mhm.
no major things going on, and
Right.
I think the attitude was, the safety brief will be, you know, if you're drinking and driving, don't spill it, that kind of mentality. Uh, our physical training would include beer runs. Um,
Nice. Wow.
and for that, again, that was just a culture. I'll call it a
Mhm.
cultural thing at the time. And
Yeah.
just like society, everything changed.
Yeah.
So
Very
same
much
thing.
so.
But it was nothing to. And back then, I mean, the drinking age was 21, but I believe
Well, on base it was
on base you
18,
can
right?
drink 18, right?
Yeah.
So you had the Del Mar E Club, uh, and there was like a beach club at Santa Ana Free or something. But so there was a lot of partying. You look forward to the weekends if you had
Right.
liberty, and then of course, unless you were going to the field. So you're a Pendleton. If you're going to the field, sometimes you were going to Twin Island Palms for a CAX or
Oh, yeah.
a few months at a time, and uh, so you dealt with that, and yeah, just
Did
we
you do any deployments or anything like on a MEU or anything like that
no my
during that time?
during in the during that time I was going to go on a BSSG, so just go on a ship. Now I'd been on a ship
Hmm.
for training, like the Tarawa, do some beach
Right.
landings on Pendleton. So that was the extent of our training, beach landings and
Hmm.
training on the beach. Or going to Twin Island Balls for the field. My first deployment stuff wasn't. Now they had people joining the MEU from Pendleton.
Right.
Um, I never got one of those. I was going to join a BSSG. Then I kind of got in a little trouble. But then at the same token, I got orders to Okinawa.
Mm.
So because I was on a 6-year contract, so 1989, so 85 to 89, that's 4 years. So 2 years out, I'm going to Okinawa for the 1 year unaccompanied tour at the
Nice.
time.
Okay.
And in Okinawa, I got to go to Korea for a bear hunt, and we took a ship over there and uh, going on from South Korea in the southern part of Korea
Hmm.
to near the DMZ, taking a rail
Right.
car,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
moving all our equipment up there and whatnot. Uh, Hell, I even drove a Humvee. I want to say around Seoul while I was there one
Oh,
time,
wow.
um, going from point A to point B.
Hmm.
Uh, so that was the first year was the Operation Bear Hunt, uh,
Hmm.
Korea. Uh, Again, Okinawa training, different training areas, and then I had to make a decision. So that first year that I had one more year after if I was going to come back to the states,
Right.
1 year left on the contract. I'm not thinking of reenlistment. And I think the buzz was I could have gone to North Carolina. And in my mind, it was back then, North Carolina didn't have the reputation like as being the very fun spot that I'd love to go. So I said, well, hell, I'll extend on Okinawa for my last year.
Right.
And so I submitted for an extension, and I was doing good enough. The command approved it, and plus saving the Marine Corps money.
Oh yeah.
Don't have to rotate nobody else over. Send somebody back, right? So I got extended. So now I got at least I want to spend my last year in the Marine Corps in Okinawa
Mm-hmm.
and see how that goes. And so now we're getting into from '89 to '90, and that's when Saddam, rolled into
Mm.
Kuwait, right?
Right.
And I'm not going to get into I can get into what prompts these wars and regime
Yeah.
change or whatever, right? But so that was the buzz.
Mm-hmm.
Saddam rolls into Kuwait. It was like August of '90.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm already '89 to '90, so I'm already just past my 1 year mark. So I'm into my extension year now
Okay.
because I got the Okinawa in May of '89. So now we're
Okay.
August of '90,
Now, were
and
you sergeant, corporal?
I,
What
I
were
was
you then?
now I was a sergeant,
Okay.
and um, and back then, I did platoon sergeant. You always had
Mm-hmm.
collateral duties when you're in
Right.
communications. Uh, so we rotate billets too and responsibility. And the the Kuwait thing that's bubbling up. So all the beating, and it was a
Right.
Friday afternoon, and I was part of Third FSSG back then.
Mm-hmm.
So communications company, Third FSSG, and it's a Friday afternoon, and we're not going on liberty because
Hmm.
all the higher ups are in a meeting,
Right.
staff NCOs and officers. And we had this one lady in the platoon, sergeant, fellow sergeant. She had a baby on the way, and
Mm-hmm.
she runs around going, "We're going to Kuwait. We're going to Kuwait." And I said, "You ain't going anywhere. You're pregnant." Yeah, yeah. Just being a wise guy,
Yeah.
and then we're just thinking. So we're just talking amongst ourselves, right? The young NCOs and below,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, okay, well, if there is something going to pop off over there, and maybe I'm not a geography, you know, guru at the time, right? But we're just doing, whatever math. Hey, they'll send Camp Lejeune or Lejeune first, right?
Yeah.
Because they're closer, you know. And then we're war gaming. They're not gonna send us. We're in Okinawa, So that we're just gonna wait and see what happens, right? So the staff officials get back from the meeting, and they call me up to the office. And the other little fun fact would have been I was going to go to TAD to a school in Hawaii for a few weeks,
Mm.
so I was already scheduled for that.
Right.
So they call me in the front part of the office, and they go, "Well, we got good news and bad news." He goes, "Bad news is you're not going to Hawaii." I said, "Okay." They go, "Good news is you're going back to Korea, bear hunt." So in my mind, I'm thinking, and he goes, "You joined the detachment tomorrow." It was called BSSG 9.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, all right, so my Saturday, I'm going to check into this unit. And like I did last time, we checked in on Saturday, just did the formalities, and then we were secured for the rest of the weekend, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's what he told me within that period of time. And then
Uh-huh.
maybe 15 minutes later, it was me and one other guy in
Mm-hmm.
our platoon that was going to join up with the rest of these communicators. And the way the whole building was laid out, was a big warehouse. There's the inner area, open area,
Mm-hmm.
where they said, okay, everyone that's going to be joining BSSG, you have a formation with the platoon commander and whatever. So there
Okay.
was there was like 31 of us in this detachment, and again, I'm thinking bear hunt. I'm thinking Korea.
Right.
Then this lieutenant gets out there and goes, all right. He goes, within the next 30 days, we're going to be in, the Middle East or whatever he said.
Oh wow.
Right now, we're going to supply to draw our NBC gear. Not the training gear. We're going to draw the real NBC
The
gear,
real
right?
deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we're going to go through. So there was no liberty from that day on. Within 10 days from that afternoon, we were loaded up on a ship, and
Wow.
in that 10 days, we joined the unit, inspections, spent a
Mm-hmm.
week in the field, doing a bunch of stuff in mop gear, right?
Yeah.
And then loading up the ships.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, as luck would have it, and the bottom line, the reason I got to go
Mm-hmm.
is because my rotation date was the furthest out amongst
Oh
everyone else
really?
because I'd extended.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So they said, all right, who's got the furthest rotation date out? All right, you guys are going. So
Wow.
so as part of that, there were 3 ships that we're going to take
Mm-hmm.
to the Middle East. So that was our little, uh, whatever you call that. Not going to call it a battle group, just our little expeditionary force. I don't know if
Yeah.
we were using expeditionary back then. We went from amphibious
Uh,
to expeditionary, but
yeah. I don't know when though. I
but
don't
the long
remember
story
when.
short, it was 3 ships,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and I was originally going to be on the bigger ship, and I was going to leave a day later, and then of course now I was the single guy back then, right?
Oh yeah.
So then the platoon commander, platoon sergeant, called me in and goes, "Hey man," he goes, "Sergeant so and so's married, so we were wondering if you would switch places so he gets an extra night home with his wife, and you'll leave tomorrow on the San Bernardino,
Mm-hmm.
which was I think it was an LST." I said, "All right, yeah, let him get another
Yeah.
night with his wife, right?" Um, so I left a day early on the San Bernardino, and then so we floated over to the Persian Gulf,
Mm-hmm.
and it was still I can't remember the exact time frame. It was we left within 10 days. We got there in early September,
Okay.
so as during the buildup, and we got to a port in Saudi Arabia. On the way over, we stopped in the Philippines to get some causeways put on the ship
Mm-hmm.
for us to make an amphibious landing if we had to,
Oh
uh,
wow. Yeah.
where they're like ramps or whatever that
Right.
get them closer to the shore or whatever. But loading that ship, because I was part of ship's platoon,
Mm.
so you had the well deck. We had tanks on that ship. We had artillery on the ship,
No kidding.
uh,
It was
amphibious
loaded down.
vehicles. So lot of it was basically you're going into combat, right? Is what they'll say.
Right.
Um, so on the way over, we're getting all the training on the deck of the ship, right? Training,
Mm-hmm.
and so back then, I think it's relative to where you're at, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you're not a staff NCO, you're going to badmouth the staff NCOs.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and and this is allegedly the big war. You know, nobody knows what's going to happen because no one's been to
Yeah.
war in a while, right? And so we're heading over, and every day there were scheduled classes. There was only one staff NCO with us. Now he's allegedly the guy. He's the NBC staff NCO.
Mm.
So he's obviously going to have a lot of skin in the game on the mop gear and
Right.
nuclear, biological, chemical stuff. Because Saddam, what Americans will drown in their own blood, right? Getting
Right. Yeah.
the anthrax boosters or whatever,
Oh yeah.
the,
Good
the
times there.
all the stuff they got to give you, right?
Right.
Experimental vaccines. I'll throw that out there because that does come into play. But so we're getting these classes, and the staff sergeant, who he's supposed to be he's the motivator, right?
Yeah.
So whatever we're doing these classes, and we're getting classes from, all the infantry guys giving us
Yeah.
classes and all the crew serve weapons, and when we're on the deck of the ship, all us sergeants and below would be gathered around getting into training, and off to the side would be the staff NCOs and officers just doing whatever, chatting it up.
Mm-hmm.
So one day the staff sergeant, who's motivated, stopped the class and yelled at them, says, "You staff NCOs and officers better start taking notes because y'all ain't bulletproof." And from that day forward, every one of them staff NCOs always try to inject themselves. You got a lance corporal giving a class, and they'd be trying
Yeah.
to interject, and oh yeah, and that could do this and that, right? And then one day, and we pick on the postal gunny. Forgive me.
Yeah.
I I get along with all MOSs, right? If you get when you move up through the ranks, but we called them the postal gunny. But one day we're having a class on the deck, and back then, the gas mask, right?
Right.
There was a Marine using his gas mask as a pillow, or laying
Oh,
on it.
right.
So the gunny stops the class. Excuse me, like whoever's giving it. Hey, you don't lay on your gas mask. It could save your life. And all we knew was, hey, the postal gunny called out somebody for laying on their gas mask.
I love it.
So,
That's good.
but again, being on the ship's platoon, a lot of card playing, at night, the Navy shower thing. But
Right.
when you hit the rough seas, all the vehicles and stuff, they're dogged down,
Hmm.
the chains and whatnot. Well, the captain of the ship said, all right, we're hitting some rough, seas or whatever. He wants everything double griped. So if you have
Oh,
like 4 things on, you get put 8. We
yeah.
basically used almost everything on the ship,
Oh,
on the
wow.
on the upper deck, on the well deck.
Hmm.
Uh, it was just a ball buster, if you will. Um, and then when we got to the port, then just getting offloading to the port, you offload the ship, and then all the ammo in those magazines. Well, you have these artillery shells on a pallet,
Hmm.
but you didn't have a pallet jack that can go over the lip of the
Oh,
door to the magazine room. So we're doing that by hand. But the long story
that's
short, it was
fun.
just a long night unloading the damn ship. And then when we got there, uh, so they call this Combat Service Support Detachment 31. So when
Okay.
we got to Saudi Arabia, now we're joining the FSSG again. So
Okay.
we become part of a CSSG or whatever it was. Uh, and I'm actually working with people I had worked with in the past, and then we have people from Hawaii working with us.
Oh, wow.
So we're all doing all that during part of the buildup.
Hmm.
So that was the extent of it. A lot of sandbag filling, um, you know, a lot of indirect fire, or whether it's missile or scuds or
Right.
whatnot. But other than that, we did our time for that, and at the end, back to the holy sand or whatever the hell. We had every sandbag we filled,
You
we
had
had
to
to
empty?
empty out,
Oh,
you know,
jeez.
to not offend whatever. But
Oh, what fun.
but anyway, we got back in March. I think it was March of '91. Again, it
Okay.
wasn't the longest war from the line of departure,
Hmm.
because I think it's kicked off after January.
Hmm.
I remember it had to be after this. Uh, it was after the New Year, if I'm not mistaken. And
That sounds right.
but again, come March, we're rotating out, and we
Hmm.
flew back. So we flew back
Oh,
to
nice.
Okinawa.
Hmm.
Well, it sounded nice, right? Of course, on the way when we stopped off in the Philippines, we're going to war, right? On our liberty,
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
our last liberty before war. So we're saying, oh, we'll be back, right? We don't know nothing. So we didn't come back. We went back to Okinawa, and that was the flavor of the day.
Hmm.
And then I had to decide what's next.
Hmm.
Oh, I reenlisted in Iraq. I mean, I reenlisted in Saudi Arabia
Oh,
because that was
okay.
my last year in the Corps, and there was too
So you
many
had to
unknown.
make a
There were
decision.
there were too many unknowns.
Hmm.
What the future hold. So
Right.
initially, my MOS wasn't reenlisting. Then it was, and then they lost my paperwork, and then they got the capability to do reenlistments over there. So I was able to reenlist, and
Okay.
I reenlisted for retention on station. So
Oh.
we didn't know when we were coming back still, but
Hmm.
at least in my mind, if I get back to Okinawa, I don't have to pack my bags and come back to the States
Right.
for another unit getting ready to come back. Because again, there were people that went back afterwards for the other
Hmm.
operations after that, where I didn't have to I got back to Okinawa. I knew I was still good for, well, I thought another year, which would have
Right.
been May of '92. However, I got the orders for I&I duty
Mm.
in Communications Battalion in New York, and I was in Long Island. So
Now
we had
that was where you're. No, no, you said you had moved from New York.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
I still had family around there,
Oh, I see.
and
Okay.
you would think being closer to home, I would have spent more time with my family, but I didn't. Um, but yeah, Long Island, the headquarters was in the Bronx or Fort Schuyler, and then we
Hmm.
had there was a unit in Brooklyn. But that's where
Okay.
I trained. I trained reservist. But the thing was, I short toured my retention in Okinawa because I had to get to New York to replace the guy
Oh.
who wanted to leave early. So he wanted to leave his
Hmm.
I&I tour early. So I got there early so he could leave. Um,
That was nice of you.
yeah, well, it's orders, right? Those, well, those Marine Corps, those are orders. That was like the fantasy. Before I went to Okinawa, uh, I listened to the urban legend. You can refuse orders one time in your Marine Corps career,
Oh, right. Yeah.
and so I had this thing going on relationship. So I didn't know if I wanted to up and leave, but I asked my sergeant major. I said, "Hey, I heard I can refuse orders one time in my Marine Corps career." He's like, "Who told you that?" They're orders for a reason. You go. So I was going. Uh,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So I did my NI tour, trained reservists, and that was that was neat. Where because we did our annual training, we did it in North Carolina. We did annual training in Yuma, Camp Pendleton.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah. So and Twin on Palms. So you have the reserve. You feel with the reserves work.
Hmm.
Uh, even though it's 2 weeks out of the year, they stretch it out like over 2 months because you're gonna have an advance party, and those guys
Oh,
can
I see.
sign.
Yeah.
They could sign on for like active duty special work or extra time. So
Hmm.
you got guys to keep continuity. They can come out for the first month, and then there's overlap where the
Right.
next crew comes in for 2 weeks, and then you have the index part of it where so there's continuity over that 2 month period of time to get through the annual training.
Yeah, that's
Um,
interesting.
so that was a good tour. Um, and I picked up a staff sergeant during that tour.
Oh, okay.
And
So this is now
that's
how many years?
so that's 1992 when I got there. Uh, 94, I'd say I got selected
Okay.
to staff sergeant, and I was a staff sergeant before I left there in '95.
All right.
Um, and then I came out to the communication electronics schools as an instructor, Twin on Palms.
Nice. Okay.
And the thing was, I could have I had a chance to go to the drill field in '95.
Hmm.
It would have been Paris Island, and I had just got married to my ex-wife back then, right? She was
Yeah.
in Twin on Palms, so that was my kind of motivation to go to Twin on.
I see. Yeah.
That being said, nobody was volunteering to go to Twin on Palms either. So
That's true.
hey, I got to be an instructor within the MOS, and it's like anything else in the Marine Corps, the flavor of the day.
Right.
As long as you're training Marines or making Marines, you
Hmm.
know, or even in '95. I mean, aside from Somalia early on,
Hmm.
there still wasn't a whole lot things popping off
Right.
where um, you did that or you want special duty. But I hadn't given up on the drill field yet.
Hmm.
But again, everything hindsight 2020. While I was there in Twin on Palms, got selected for gunny,
Okay.
and I went to the advanced course at El Toro back then
Yeah.
as a gunny select, and we got to go down to San Diego to tour the DI school
Hmm.
and recruit training, and the the order on the body composition thing hadn't even changed yet. So
Oh, really?
this is '97, and I remember I was at DI school and I asked the chief instructor during our tours at the academy class if
Hmm.
I can come to, you know, DI school, and if they took weight waivers, and they said, we don't do weight waivers. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, well, that would suck.
Yeah.
But then once the Marine Corps changed the order,
Mm-hmm.
the weight waiver thing, that's out of the loop. But
Yeah.
now, I'm doing the instructor thing, and I'm into my third year, and we're going on to my fourth year. So
Mm-hmm.
95 to 99, and the monitors came out for their road show.
Right.
And I knew my MOS monitor. I had a lot of respect for the guy. I served with him before, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
say he probably saved my career. So I said to him, I said, I'm going to go meet the monitor. I'm going to ask to go to the drill field,
Mm-hmm.
but in the same breath, if he tells me I need you somewhere else, I'll do whatever he tells me.
Yeah.
Because that's how much respect I had. So while I was waiting in line to see the monitors, the DI monitor was there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm a gunny, and I walked up and I asked, hey, uh, you think I could go to DI school? Would you guys take a gunny, yada yada? He goes, if your monitor releases you, we'll take you.
Okay.
So I get down, I can finally get to see my monitor, and he says, hey, what can I do for you? I said, well, I'll go wherever you tell me, but I still would like to do the drill field. He goes, well, tomorrow I'll be at the schoolhouse tomorrow. I'll look at the numbers. And he goes, if I can make the move, I'll sign off on your sheet tomorrow. And next day he signed off, and
Nice.
then I got the orders for the DI school and
Okay.
went down there.
And
And
so you went down as a gunny.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, that was frowned upon by the flavor of the day,
Right.
And I always told the young guys, I say, hey, man, I'm not a threat. I'm not going to steal your meritorious staff sergeant a gunny.
Yeah.
I'm already a gunny. Uh, there's always a debate about, because there were obviously gunnies before me who they might become a senior drill instructor
Mm-hmm.
quicker and allegedly take it from somebody else.
Right.
I mean, I say I eventually became a senior based on my work ethic and maturity, which
Mm-hmm.
was more of a plus in experience
Right.
than just because some of the built-in nuances of the drill field. Where I fast forward where we met
Mm-hmm.
when I did the regimental thing, I was in a position to at least influence some change. And
Right.
you could only influence while you're there, because someone will
Yeah,
come
that's true.
behind you and either do it their way, a different way, or whatever, where
Yeah.
the people before you did it one way. But there's always little nuances that just never change over time.
Right.
And I'm sure we can go on and on about all the missteps of drill instructors,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was a training thing, a maturity thing. Just for an example, the lights to lights, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess maybe I was spoiled, even as a new drill instructor, where once training day 17 came and I went out for initial drill and took the X, I was off of lights.
Right.
But there were some attitudes, and it varied from company to company, battalion to battalion.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, your first cycle, your lights to lights the whole cycle.
Yeah.
And I always disagreed with that, because if you're not invested in training somebody to where they can stand duty on their own, and you're just kind of using them as an extra backup, but not really training them,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to burn the guy out, give him a bad taste, and then he's going to do it to somebody else if he gets promoted or a different billet,
Yeah.
and the guy becomes useless. And then the guy said, I go on and on about the guy who they work him to death, and then his wife is, saying you haven't taken care of your
Right.
responsibilities, and then he says, all right, I just got done with a 0-1 field week exercise. I'm going to run down. I'm at Pendleton. I'm going to run down to San Diego to take care of mama. And then I'm going to fall asleep at the wheel and crash my car
Oh yeah.
because I'm sleep deprived,
Yeah.
and now you're down. So what, are you going to be down a drill instructor? And then there's enough smart people who, and I battled this even at the regiment level. We always do more with less, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's always these smart people. Well, how many people you think you could train a platoon with? Okay, a 90-man platoon, you good with 3 people, a senior and 2 green belts? Well, Yeah, maybe you could make it happen, but the quality is not going to be as good.
That's a
The
true statement. Yeah.
supervision, the eyes on. And oh, by the way, if one thing happens to one individual,
You go
now you're
down to
down
two.
to two.
Yeah.
When the TO says one thing and you're trying to tear up the TO, people
Yeah.
smarter than us came up with like an instructor to student ratio, and now you're trying to make it worse.
Yeah.
So
I did
yeah,
only one three hat team, and it was work.
and the thing about I will say this: uh, when I was in the three hat team as a senior with two green belts,
Hmm.
we all at least we all had experience.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's different if you had two experienced and one brand new person.
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
it's all relative to because you can manage your time better. You have the vision. You've seen the cycle. You can
Right.
anticipate. Where if you got somebody who don't know, you got blind leading the blind. That's different.
Hmm.
So we just try to keep an eye on that, but also be realistic that yeah, we could do it,
Yeah.
but just be aware if somebody goes down for whatever reason. It could be medical. It could be allegation,
Hmm.
whatever. Then somebody's gonna suffer,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
the product's gonna suffer. The recruits are gonna suffer. They're gonna get a bad example. And then fast forward a few years, then when they're a brand new drill instructor and they have
Yeah.
the SOP, but they're left by themselves because no one's supervising them, they
Yeah.
might default back to the wrong way they were trained and do something stupid.
Hmm.
So, all right, so that was my little soapbox on that. So, long story short, I got to go to DI school, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was the gunny class commander, and I remember the first day, chief instructor, we got along good, down the road, because a lot of my instructors went on to become fellow sergeants major, and
Oh, okay.
we knew each other. Um, but during that time, the first day of DI school, when you report in,
Right.
in your PT gear, they put you on the scale and all that. And the chief instructor called me up to his office, and he goes, "Don't show your ass," because his mind was, he says, "This gunny's going to question everything." And
Right. Oh yeah.
that wasn't my style. I was
Hmm.
there. I was there to learn.
Hmm.
You know, I'm not there to try to show everybody how smart I am.
Right.
I'm going to be the sponge. I do my class commander duties, and
Hmm.
you're not the most popular guy when you're trying to, regulate stuff or run stuff. Um, but it
It's
was all
true.
good. It's all good learning. But I wasn't there to question anything they're teaching or
Yeah.
act like I know something. I just I didn't piss them off. I guess
Yeah.
we're to that extent. Uh, but yeah, my first sergeant when I got to the training company, an India company. I remember after we had the professional dinner.
Hmm.
He goes, we'll see how you work out, Gunny. He goes, a lot of you gunnies come down here and get broke. Meaning, we get injuries. Now,
Yeah.
knock on wood. Uh, I didn't get broke right away. But I told him, I said, first, I want to run circles around some of these sergeants, right? I was talking smack. But,
Oh dang.
but it, you know, you deal with that. Um,
Hmm.
I got selected for first sergeant during that tour, halfway
Oh wow.
through, and it was a
Okay.
3 year tour, and
Hmm.
I was fortunate because again I had good mentors, good leaders, good people pulling for me. So I was on my third senior cycle. I'm already selected, and one day they first sergeant calls me down to the office. Different first sergeant than the one I had mentioned earlier.
Right.
Um, he tells me remove your belt and cover. You're going to see the
Uh-oh.
company commander, and I'm like, what the? I'm pissed. We're going in the third phase, right? Um,
Thinking, what did I do?
so I'm waiting. Yeah, I'm waiting for the company commander to come back from battalion, and then but the rest of my team comes down to the office, and he yells at them. He goes, I don't know why you guys are smiling. Your senior's over there without his belt and cover, and then you're like, oh shit, what? And I'm thinking, what the, whatever it is, it's bull jive or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so company commander gets back, tells me to report to the company commander. I report to company commander. He sits back in his chair and goes, he goes, I can't do it to you because he was going to play it out.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He goes, hey, I just came back from battalion. Indian company needs a first sergeant, so we're going to send you over there uh, to take over that training company as a first sergeant. I'm like, wow, okay. So it worked out.
Nice.
So
Now, did they frock you to move you over?
yeah, well, initially I went over as a gunny until the frocking order came down.
Oh, I
So
see.
I was
Okay.
still the first sergeant as a gunny, but then the frocking came in. I think it came in like right after pickup, but did that, and then during that time, that's when here we go. I remember I was being a first sergeant. We were up at Weapon Field when
Hmm.
9/11 kicked off.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you were on the drill field when all that happened.
Right. So
Okay.
I remember going to the chow hall that morning, early breakfast.
Hmm.
The recruits are going they're shooting that week.
Hmm.
It was firing week. They have the TVs on in the chow hall, and I'm watching the Twin Towers. The first plane had already hit, and we're West Coast time, and it's pretty early.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, uh, whatever it was, close to 6. 8
Hmm.
to 9 time frame, where the second plane hit. And you could watch it live when the second plane came in. Hit the
Right.
second. So that's when we knew. Oh, that ain't just bad luck, right? Or
Right.
that's like a terrorist attack, right? So that's when everything kicked off, right? You know,
Hmm.
and as we were down range, that's when we heard about the Pentagon, etc. So
Hmm.
then that's when everything changed for the country, military,
Right.
etc. Recruits. Now, granted, we're on the West Coast, so not too many recruits were impacted, kind of like Paris Island, the East
Right.
Coast. Um, but then Afghanistan started kicking off. So it's
Hmm.
probably 2001, still in the drill field, and I know my time's coming up. And so where am I going to go next?
Right.
Well, I still want to get back to Twin on Palms, and nobody's asking to go to Twin on Palms.
Still
So,
nobody's asking.
so I got to go to the First Battalion, Seventh Marines, and
Okay.
for just be a first sergeant there, and get there, and obviously they're preparing for deployment.
Hmm.
Um, I start out first sergeant of a rifle company. And that's my first time, in an infantry battalion.
Right.
I served with. I got a lot of respect for all MOSs, and particularly the infantry from my time serving with those guys and what they did.
Hmm.
And so OIF one was the rifle company, and
Okay.
after we got extended we got extended after the march up. So January of was it 2003?
Hmm.
OIF one.
Right.
I want to say we got back. What was it, like October time frame of
Yeah.
because we got extended through the summer after the famous mission accomplished and all that stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But but when we left Iraq and we took a convoy down to Kuwait um, to get ready to come back to the States, there was already buzz about the next rotation of units. So now
Oh,
we're getting,
wow.
so OIF is going to get bigger and
Hmm.
continue on.
Right.
So we already know, all right, we're going back to the States, but we're going to be coming back. All right. And then when we were down in Kuwait, um, the sergeant major then, some of the first sergeants either retired or went back, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But there was weapons company needed a first sergeant, and the sergeant major, he's like, I'm not going to play, sergeant major and first sergeant for weapons company. They need a first sergeant now. So they moved me. They moved me from Charlie Company to weapons company during the retrograde back.
Right.
So came back with weapons company, and I stayed with weapons company up through the OIF two, which was
Hmm.
going to be the following summer of 2004. So
Right.
August 2004, we headed back, and we were in Western Iraq. You flew in Al Assad, and then we took the 53s to close to the Syrian border to Al
Okay.
Qaim, That's where we did my second tour there with Weapons Company, and that was little more dynamic, deployment,
Right.
a little more kinetic and all that stuff. Where, uh, we took casualties, etc. Um,
Right.
so that was a rough time, but we came back after that, uh, and because I had my two deployment, and I got selected for sergeant major during that tour.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
in country, so I knew eventually I was going to be moving somewhere,
Right.
but I finished out the deployment, obviously, came back to the States, and then I was like one of the last guys to get orders because I was kind of junior anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Because initially, when the promotion board went in session, I was in the below zone.
Oh
So
wow.
when the message came out, I think it was October, November, early November
Mm-hmm.
of 2004. I remember getting a congratulations email, and I kind of looked at the some kind of linear list, whatever I was looking at,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, I went to the below zone or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and unbeknownst to me, during the board, I started out in the below zone. I ended up in zone, so I
Oh,
got
they pulled
selected.
you up. Yeah.
So I got selected in zone, but I was still one of the junior guys.
Right.
So the long story short on that one was when we got back to the states, and now it's summertime,
Mm-hmm.
um, getting close to summer. I still didn't have orders, so I didn't know where I was going. And then there was rumor maybe I'll take over the battalion sergeant major spot,
Right.
which I already did two deployments with the battalion. New people coming and going. There's some new people coming in that would have been great to work for. And
Mm-hmm.
there were some old people sticking around that maybe I wouldn't want to work for, and maybe they didn't want to work with me. Hey,
Yeah.
but that's the way it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But so fast forward, I finally got orders,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the infantry training battalion, school of
Oh, okay.
infantry. And back to flavor of the day, and I'm a big fan of the combat instructor special
Mm-hmm.
duty assignment when they made that
Right.
because I always believe quality begets quality
Right.
because the old paradigm was fair or unfair. There was a stigma that an SOI instructor or the non-deployable O3s who they sent to the schoolhouse
Mm.
to train the infantrymen. So who were those guys?
Interesting. Yeah.
Were they drill instructor wannabes? And we've been on the
Right.
drill field. You have that term, but there are people. That's what they do. They're drill instructor wannabes.
Mm-hmm.
So their leadership style is a drill instructor caricature where they're not training you, but they're just messing with you.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the term hazing is real popular, but again, drill field we call it cruelty maltreatment.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, there is something to that where if you're not doing some good physical training, if you're
Mm-hmm.
just making things up just to inflict pain, you know, you're going to get what you get. Are you going to
Mm-hmm.
get a better? You're going to get a better infantryman skilled by doing,
Yeah.
I say, FF games, or by training them. So, my and anyone can disagree. Example, like when I was in the with them when we did hikes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Somebody falls out of a hike. There was the old condolence letters. Now this is before OAF1.
Mm-hmm.
Or you fell out of the hike, you got to write a letter to you know the entire platoon or company's parents how you got everybody killed because you fell out of the hike because
Right.
you didn't make the mission. Or you got to dig graves, right? You got to dig graves for every member of the platoon. Well,
Oh, geez.
after that's good for I guess garrison mindset. But when you do the deployments, you have a little respect. The only person that does condolence letters are your commanders for people
Yeah.
killed.
Yeah. True.
Nobody's digging graves um, in the context of the way they were instilling that. You got
Right.
somebody they're falling out of a hike, then do some remedial hiking, work
Mm-hmm.
them,
Yeah.
get them where they need to be. So
Absolutely.
that's where I split hairs on, you know, the pain punishment versus uh, which again, what they call it, extramilitary instruction, is the
Right.
legal way to punish somebody
Right.
versus NJP and court martial, right? So,
Mhm.
so that's my little soapbox on that. Where um, fast forward to the combat instructor billet and
Mhm.
the special duty, the school,
Right.
the instructor training. So I was a big fan of the combat instructors during that time because these guys were professionals,
Yeah.
and I'd say 99.9% were fresh out of
Oh
combat
yeah.
pits. Uh, so they had skin in the game, and
Mhm.
plus the Marines, that infantrymen they're graduating, that they're investing in, are going downrange, if you will,
Right. Yeah.
during that time.
Yeah. In a very
So
short amount of
they're
time.
right, yeah, they're feeding. So they're feeding the infantry battalions.
Mhm.
So it was very important. I mean, I think it was an important time,
Yeah.
and I was just fortunate to be part of that time. But like anyone else, from you know the old guy, in hindsight,
Mhm.
I think they've started the. I think they go through phases where they try to water it down. Oh, that's
Right.
not a special duty. Uh, if I work in an MOS producing school, how come mine's not a special duty? Well, it was important, and
Yeah.
and and I think they got good quality Marines and good quality instructors, and a lot of those guys, they're still in, and they're doing great things still. Uh,
Mhm.
but so I thought it was a good run, a lot of good people, good commanders, and you know at the end of
And you
that
were
tour, so
you
I
were
was a
there
sergeant major,
for 2 years?
2005, 2005, 2007.
Okay.
So so the thing was, now the wars are still going on, and I had my
Mhm.
time back in a non-deployable.
Right.
Well, the the itch is going to be, what have you done for us lately?
Mhm.
You're going to get back in the fight, blah blah blah,
Right.
and you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, fair or unfair.
Mm.
And then there's other people that need a break too, right?
Right.
So I
Yeah.
got to start looking for my next job, right? Um, and so I started looking around, and I'm asking the monitor, "Hey, how about this unit? How about that unit?" And you always get the people that are in those positions. They're going to give you their flavor as to what the criteria is, or they make their
Oh
own
yeah.
criteria. They probably, I'm going to bet it probably still goes on today. When I look at
Yeah.
some of the assignments that are going on around there, um, I might get there, but there were a few assignments I asked for. And they're going to go, well, that's for a more senior sergeant major, or
Yeah.
that's an independent battalion.
Right.
You gotta go to another battalion. But the long story short, which is always still a blessing in disguise, is I got to go back to Tuana Palms to 3-7
Oh,
uh,
nice.
for that battalion. And some of the combat instructors and some of the senior
Right.
enlisted staff NCOs I got to serve with Infantry Training Battalion, or SOI.
Mhm.
We served together in 3-7, and some stayed even after I left 3-7. Some were still there, and we did an Iraq deployment in '08 with them. So I left in '07, end of
Mhm.
'07, get to 3-7. We hit uh, Iraq in '08, and
Where did you go in Iraq that
so,
time?
so, still Western Iraq, but we
Okay.
had back then it was a bigger, if you want to call it, area of responsibility, because we're
Mhm.
back then we're downsizing, so we're
Right. Yeah.
we're we're decreasing our footprint in Iraq. So
But
we're
still having
doing
to
we're
cover the same area.
yeah, but we're doing more with less, right?
Right.
Because we have the cops, you got
Mhm.
Rawa, you got Haditha, Al Assad, Al Qaim, just the whole area
Wow.
where you're sending out companies, platoons,
Mhm.
attachments, and just battlefield circulation, and getting ready for the alleged, you know, downsizing withdrawal, or
Right.
kind of like when we left the first time, we were
Mhm.
turning it over to the Spanish and whatever other multinational coalition.
Right.
Now in '08, fast forward to '08, it was less. kinetic.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a good thing. Uh, but then Afghanistan was brewing up,
Right.
hotter and heavier,
Right.
and we took over enough battle space that they were offloading units that would have replaced us, and we're sending them to Afghanistan.
Oh, wow.
So now that's the big drawdown. When I got back in '09, now we're getting
Mm-hmm.
ready for the Afghanistan deployment.
Okay.
And
Still with 3-7 though.
I'm still with 3-7.
Yeah.
However, now I'm considered a more senior sergeant major, right?
Okay.
And that's when the recruit training regiment became a thing. When I say became a thing, because this is where I can get on the soapbox again about, everybody has different perspectives.
Right.
During that time, the recruit training regiment, and it's still considered now, it's a high visibility billet.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important billet. People can get killed, right?
Absolutely.
Nobody wants their recruits dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went it, and I was screened for that job. I had to submit like basically a mini slate package.
Right.
But years after, even I had left, they kind of watered it down a little bit on both coasts.
Really?
They removed it from the high visibility billet, and maybe they just picked whoever they thought was the heir to the whatever it was.
Right.
But there was a period where some things bubbled up on the depots where they went back to being a high visibility billet, and they have the slatings for that. I'm not going to get into the weeds, on how they're selecting or whatever. But point is, it's a big responsibility.
Absolutely.
And I was fortunate to have, I believe, I had good commanders. The commanding generals of the base when I was there were good people to work for. I missed certain evolutions of people.
Yeah.
That people that were there know. Where, I think we had a good run, and it was a team effort. And now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
But we were there during that time. Right.
Yeah.
And where did you do your quota?
I was at the swim tank.
Swim tank.
You came and visited me down there.
Well, do you remember me coming to the swim tank trying to work on my swim? Because I didn't have to qualify again. That's why I don't want to be wrong. I knew you were down at the swim tank, and I knew there was a period of time I said, you know what, I want to get a combat water survival 2, so I wouldn't have to qualify again anymore in the Marine Corps.
And correct me if I'm, you made it, right? You made it to 2.
We made it to 2, yeah. So, but again, you guys, and I'm sure you helped me out a lot too. But yeah, all that stuff was important.
Oh yeah.
And there's different personalities, but there's always someone who wants to test the waters, and we don't have to agree on everything. But one of the first things I saw when I went back to the drill field. Now I left in 2000. I left in 2002. I went back in 2012.
Right.
So that's 10 years removed. So some things changed and some things stay the same, right?
Right.
But 2012, right? The Marine Corps has been in the wartime footprint, right? If you will. And I remember walking down the highway, and you can hear everything, right?
Oh yeah.
Stuff coming from the barracks. And I just hear this banging and yelling, and I'm wondering what the hell is going on up there, right? So I go up to the third deck, and there's one drill instructor. He's got the fire watch, and he's got the dustpans, metal dustpans.
Yeah.
Banging them together, banging them on the foot lockers, yelling, just making noises. Not even the command, just noises. And he tells me, well, I was just trying to simulate the sights and sounds of combat.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And
maybe.
I'm like, well, Not quite. I'll just throw it out. I'll just leave it at that. Not quite. But I guess my point was,
Oh
I
man.
would, and then maybe I told you guys, maybe during a pickup brief. But if it comes out of your mouth, it better be a command or an order, not
Yeah.
not some unintelligible, freaking banshee. Bravo Company had the banshee or whatever they had.
Oh
But
yeah.
but
I forgot about that.
there's just these things that they do. You
Yeah.
know, let's get some. Think about what you're doing and who's listening, because it
Yeah.
ain't just me. Because we get calls from the general's building, right?
Oh yeah.
What's going on? What are they doing down there? Or I saw. When did you guys start doing this? Doing what? You know. So, well, how about gear guards? A guy smarter
Oh
than me
God.
figured out the gear guard thing.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember on my first tour being brand new,
Hmm.
and it was a long day, and it was getting ready for grad week, and
Hmm.
grad week is supposed to be all the recruits or all the Marines, every event, so you have to have gear guards, right?
Right.
So this guy, the J, right, the experienced drill instructor, tells me, he goes, "Hey man, I mean it's like 1900," and I'm thinking I can go home soon.
Right. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah.
"Hey man, senior says you ain't going home till you got gear guards for the week."
Oh God.
And back then, see, at least I wasn't taught it. We weren't smart enough. They didn't have a schedule for the entire depot, meaning like I couldn't say, okay, hotel companies here,
All right.
they're in first phase. I can go to their house and get gear guards real easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I just had to go from building to building and hope to find someone who would be kind
Yeah.
enough. And I always got well, I can't give you gear guards. I got to ask the J, or I can't give you gear guards. I got to ask my senior. And I get turned away like and I'm a gunny, right? I get
Yeah.
turned away like I'm Joe Blow, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so fast forward to you know being at the senior level there, uh, and I remember knowing that you can look at a schedule, but then I
Mm-hmm.
remember going around one evening, just spot checking things, right?
Yeah.
And I see these new drill instructors double timing around, going looking for gear guards all of a
Right.
sudden, and for tomorrow
Yeah.
morning, and I'm wondering how did we get here? How
Yeah.
how did this team decide all of a sudden they need gear guards tomorrow morning, and now they got this new guy running around getting rejected? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'd asked him where he was coming from. I said, "Hey, where are you coming from?" I just came from that company. They told me they can't help me. Now I know the schedule.
Yeah.
I know they could help him. So I said, wait here. I went up to that house.
Yeah.
And I met the drill instructor. I said, hey, new drill instructor just come in here. Oh, and the other flavor of the day that they had you guys doing
Yeah.
was this guy shows up in your house looking for gear guards.
You had to run the deck.
He had to run the deck. Yeah. Who
Yeah.
invented that crap?
I don't know,
Because
but whoever it was needs to be punched in the face.
all I'm saying is, I know if I was a senior, if it was my house, some drill instructor comes in trying to run my deck. Who are you?
Yeah.
And a lot of bad things could happen too, right?
Oh, oh yeah.
Yeah. Who's this drill instructor coming in here getting all
Mm-hmm.
crazy, and then something stupid happens, right? So that was another lesson and I'd cover that at every pickup brief. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
you know, somebody comes to you looking for gear guards, you better have a good reason, depending on what training day you're, why you can't
Yeah.
help them out. Um, and he's not running your deck. He's not running your platoon.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can turn in your stuff and you know let him run the platoon, right? So all
Yeah.
right, so I'll digress on that, but you know,
Well, I remember very vividly more than one time. I'm sure it would happen a lot, but I'd be doing something in the squad bay or what have you, and then I'd turn around and you'd be standing there, and all you would say was "noted," and you would turn around and walk away, and I'm like, "God, he always gets me."
I think it depends on what it is, and we all have our pet peeves.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, and I'd be guilty of doing a zero once in a while. You come
Yeah.
on, you see something really stupid, it's zero, and then take the drill instructor to the duty hut and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, man, what are you doing?" And I was I wasn't a big fan of, the humiliation of having them stand on line naked,
Oh yeah.
like a
Yeah. Yeah.
punishment. Yeah, I'm like, if you're changing your clothes, get them on, get them off, or get
Yeah.
them off, get them on. Don't have them just standing there. You
Mm-hmm.
it's just a, you know,
No telling what could happen.
yeah, just stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I forgot more than I'll remember. Um, but
You'll,
yeah, the allegation stuff,
yeah.
guys getting in trouble. But again, when somebody gets put on ice, well, then there was one time there were some people, for example, you got to you got to think real hard if you're going to tell a drill instructor to go home.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on who you are and where you're at in that food chain,
Yeah.
because let's say you're the senior drill instructor and you're not happy with one of your guys,
Yeah.
and you say, hey, you know what, Jones, you ain't with it today. Oh, you don't want to work today? Go home. Don't come
Mm-hmm.
back. Don't come back till I call you. Okay,
Uh,
that sounds interesting. You know, where's Jones at, man? I hope he's not out doing anything to himself or going off the
yeah.
deep end. Or I hope he comes back to work because that's
Yeah.
another one. You know,
Tell you, you can leave
come
and
back
turn that
lost.
phone off.
Well, or when he does come back, after he's been UA, uh,
Mm-hmm.
he's lost the fire and desire and never
Oh
gets it
yeah.
back. Um, so I mean, there's a fine line for everything. But
Yeah.
then some guys got to be put on ice. All
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
gonna be working at battalion in the foreshop or something because
Yeah.
till the investigation's done.
Mm-hmm.
But knock on wood, uh, I don't recall. There was a couple. There wasn't. I've seen worse things happen or heard worse
Mm-hmm.
things happen. But the one thing that always happens, and this could be anywhere. It could be in drill field or anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Taking money from recruits and Marines under
Uh,
false suspicions.
now I think that happened while we were there. Somebody
No,
was
of
taking
course, it
taking
always.
money. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess when I first got there, I heard stories about pizza parties
Yeah.
or a drill instructor who claimed he lost $20 in the squad bay, and whoever found it could get a phone call. And then
Oh my God.
some recruit, goes in his money valuable bag and produces $20, right?
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, you go back to like my first tour, the drill master who was fleecing platoons uh, for hundreds of dollars for a plaque for the senior drill instructor. That was a big sales pitch, big
I
scandal.
do remember hearing about that. Yeah.
That's like a what do you call it, case study, right?
Yeah.
Case studies, people that did stuff you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But we got phone calls from SOI when I was there about individuals, or even when I was SOI,
Mm-hmm.
investigations from the depot about people trying to sell recruits a commemorative coin.
What?
It's only $10 for a small coin, $20 for a big one from the Franklin Mint. So you got to have a good sales pitch. You got to have a prototype, and then you work on the collection where you fleece the platoon, right?
That is insane.
But again, this platoon, they got up when I was in infantry training battalion.
Mm-hmm.
There were already students in the school, but the investigation led up to the school to interview those Marines, that former
Right.
recruits, because they were on Facebook sending notes to each other. Hey, did you get your coin yet?
Oh, jeez.
Because right before they graduated, senior drill instructor told me, he goes, hey, yeah, we've had a problem with the order. Just give me your addresses. We're going to mail it to you. And they never got their coins.
Oh God.
So that's just a
Wow.
thing that,
There's some brave individuals out there doing stuff like
or
that.
not very smart.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way
The
of putting it.
lesson,
Yeah.
the lessons are out there. The the casualties are out there. That's like
Mm-hmm.
plagiarism, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, first time I learned about plagiarism when I was at the career course,
Mm-hmm.
and back then you had the floppy disk. And
Oh, right.
I went to Quantico for the career course, so we'd go to the library and work on our assignments.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, a few people, they confiscated their floppy disk, and they had plagiarized like a previous classes, whatever. But we were
Oh,
in
geez.
classroom one morning, and the instructors come in and they named off the individuals and said, tomorrow morning, 07, in your alphas, you're going to see the commanding general.
Ooh.
And that morning we went to, I think, TBS for part of a, you know, tour thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they told us by the time you get back to the schoolhouse, those guys will be long gone with adverse
Wow.
reps and back to their units. And a couple were staff selectees, so
Mm.
they may not get their promotion.
Oh, that's the worst.
So I didn't mean to derail, but so drill field during our time, and
Mm-hmm.
again, I know you helped me out at the pool, and put that swim qual stuff behind me for during that during that tour. Uh,
Uh,
again,
that was it. That was a good time because you were like, I need to make it to 2, and I'm like, okay, I see it. And you jump in the water, and you were struggling for a little bit. I was like, ooh, this might be a little bit
no,
longer of a go.
I spent a lot of, I think it was a lot of
You
days.
came down, yeah, you came down
It
every
was a
day for like a
lot.
month. It seemed like,
It was a lot of days. But
yeah, you worked
uh,
hard. You got it though.
uh, that's one of the perks. You know, you're
Yeah,
on the depot. You got a pool. You got a swim tank. You got the PT fields. Uh,
yeah, very true.
it's close quarters, and that's where Paris on recruit, uh, San Diego
Hmm.
flavor. I mean, I can respect them both. I could see where the we're we're close down in San Diego,
Hmm.
see, even with Weapon Field, where the information as far as any changes or how to do things
Right.
can move a lot quicker than if we're in Parasol, the way they were spread out in their own little territories.
Hmm.
Some things might take longer to bubble up to the surface, or
Right.
word to get past, or to implement a change where some damage can be done. But um,
Yeah,
again,
in San Diego, it's pretty quick. Like something comes down, everybody knows
yeah.
really quick. I mean, because it's right there. Everything is.
And of course, then drill was a big thing. But at the same
Hmm.
token, people can't let the drill field go, or that's their thing.
Yeah.
But I had to move on too. I moved on from the drill field
Yeah.
after all the drill and ceremony stuff, and then I did the last tour in Europe, with Marine Forces Europe, Marine Forces Africa.
So you went from the depot to that.
Correct.
Oh,
2000.
okay.
Oh, so my bust. I got to the depot 2009. So I was 7 years removed. I left in 2012.
Okay.
So 2012, I left uh, for Germany, and Stuttgart was where the headquarters was. And yeah, that was my twilight tour. 3 years over there, and then
Well,
retired.
you got to do all the cool things. You got to go to Bellow Wood, which if you look at that picture behind us, that's the wheat fields there at Bellow.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, you got to go there, and I forgot that we met over there, and
yeah,
yeah,
three times over there. Yeah, by the the Devil Dog water fountain,
that's right. Yeah,
and they're serving the champagne.
yeah.
Champagne's flowing. So
It was a good time.
yeah, so those trips are always good uh, after the ceremony.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the ceremony not so much. That's a long ceremony.
Aside from practice for some folks, and then the VIP visits or whatnot.
Mm, yeah.
There's some things out there, but got to go to Libya,
Hmm.
Tripoli. So I got a little sand from Tripoli that the Marines gave me from there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so and I got water from the Bellawood Devil Dog Fountain.
Yeah.
They sell that.
Yeah, I did that. You buy the little, I don't know, little container, whatever,
Yeah,
and put it in there. Yeah.
it's got the World War One infantrymen
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, got that
Yeah. And I took some wheat. I took a little
from
piece
the
of wheat.
field.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I I can't remember. I put it in a book or something. I can't remember exactly where I put it, but I still have it somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So you do 3 years, and then you retired in Germany.
Well, my retirement ceremony was in Germany. I
Okay.
came back to one of the Palms, checked into the headquarters real quick just to get ready to go on terminal, my out
Oh,
process,
okay.
and then be officially retired.
Right. And then where did you go after retirement?
So to one of the Palms is where I set up home. Uh,
Okay.
I mean, I did 4 tours out here if you count my school tour as a
Hmm.
student, instructor tour, and then 2
Yeah.
tours.
It's pretty
Uh,
much home for you the whole time in the Marine
nah,
Corps then.
I made it that way. So
Yeah.
I mean, the 2005, I bought a house just instead of paying rent,
Yeah.
and I've
Might
kept
as
the house.
well.
Kept the house. Southern California's neat,
Hmm.
regardless of what the news says. Yeah, they tax the hell out of here, or gas prices. Uh,
It's got
but
good things too.
but you could always move around. You know, that's
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I came back to the house. I rented it out the 3 years I was in Germany.
Okay.
Came back, and then I said I got to. Well, I already told General Neller was one of my bosses
Hmm.
before he became the commandant, and he asked me what I was going to do, and I told him I was going to go back to school, and I did that. I got my bachelor's when I was in the Corps on,
Okay.
on tuition assistance, and the backstory about education, right? I already told you I was academic probation, right?
Yeah.
Before I joined. That first night in boot camp, or that first couple of days, they back then you could have signed on for the VEP, the Vietnam Era Education
Oh,
Plan, or
right.
whatever it was.
Uh-huh.
So you're in a classroom and the drill instructors tell you, all right, you're going to fill us in by the numbers. And, you know, you don't got time to go to school anyways, right? Whatever. So
Yeah.
I did not take the VEP.
Okay.
When the Montgomery GI Bill came around,
Uh-huh.
I could have took it. I didn't take it because I wasn't going to pay the $1,200 buy-in or whatever it was.
Okay.
And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I'm not worried about school. I didn't start caring about school till I was a gunny
Hmm.
before I went to the drill field. I did all the PME stuff, training, etc.
Right.
I said, well, off-duty education is the next step
Hmm.
as far as competitiveness. So I started going back to school. So tuition assistance, went from 75% to 90% to 100%.
Hmm.
You had to pay for your books. And so I got my bachelor's in 2010.
Okay.
And because I was fortunate enough to survive and live to see the post 9/11 GI Bill that
Hmm.
came out,
Yeah.
I got the full benefit like everyone else during
Hmm.
that time. So I used that uh, for my grad after retirement. Went back to school for that.
Nice. Now, what did you get your degrees in?
Well, it's counseling psychology.
Oh, okay.
So now, for some reason, again, some people in the Marine, you're always a mentor, you're always a counselor,
Right.
etc. So something about that, uh, working with people, taking care of
Hmm.
people, or helping. It's a little different as far as the counseling profession. But there was part of me who wanted to work on the counseling center at base
Hmm.
as a job, but I had to have a I had to be, have a graduate education. You have
Right.
to have 3,000 hours post grad at the time to get a job on the base.
Oh, wow.
So I worked somewhere else
Hmm.
um, where I'm getting paid, and I haven't got to the counseling center on the base yet because I've been working my job the last 6 years uh, for Riverside County as a
Oh, okay.
clinical therapist. So I'm considered a licensed professional clinical counselor, providing services,
Yeah.
people that need, uh, some help with their
Hmm.
stuff. Um, and and then shortly after getting the county job, the base started hiring just post grad. You didn't have to have the licensing,
uh,
but because I had a rapport where I'm working now,
uh-huh.
I've just been riding that train.
Okay.
And I like the schedule.
Yeah.
It's 7 days every 2 weeks, so it's 6 12-hour days and
Oh,
one
wow.
eight.
Okay.
So that's how I get my 80 hours every 2 weeks. But
Nice.
I work 14 days out of the month. Again,
That's not bad.
12 of them are long days, 2 are
Yeah.
short days. Um, it helps pay the bills,
Yeah. 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 That's good.
and now if you want some wokeness stuff, uh, the last couple of years I wasn't too excited about working on the base or being around under the former under the
Yeah.
former regime.
Right.
Um, I'd, I'd get up and grab my Take America Back hat, my Trump 45 47 hat. Figure I'd throw that out there. But but now things are changing.
Yeah.
I'm going to give the county a few more years, though, maybe, but
Yeah.
I still may explore. Uh, I do keep loose connections with the Marine Corps. I mean, I'm a
Hmm.
member of the VFW and Joshua Tree. I pop
Nice.
in there once in a while. Uh, but yeah, I mean,
Well, you better join the Marine Corps League. You got to do
Marine
that
Corps
too.
League.
You got
Well,
to
hey,
become one of the red hats. You know,
I'll have to take a look. I'm sure you know Sergeant Major Benford, right? He works in,
Bedford,
uh, yeah, Benford,
Benford.
Marine Corps
I
wrestler,
know.
all Marine wrestler.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Surprised you haven't had it on your podcast yet. He's a Marine Corps League guy. He's a big Marine Corps League guy. He's over by Murrieta, Temecula.
Okay.
And again, I've run into those guys at the Temecula VFW. A couple times they had like a DI call over there,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
some raffles and stuff. Um, I try to keep it here. I haven't been to a reunion yet uh,
Hmm.
with the West Coast Drill Instructor Association, but
Yeah. They do that every year, don't they?
they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think COVID might have messed up a couple things here
Oh,
and there.
right. Messed
Uh,
everything up.
yeah, yeah. Same thing with the vaccine mandates.
Yeah.
A lot of good Marines. I think didn't get promoted or
Hmm.
had to leave the Corps
Yeah.
because of that. So that's my negative Nelly's thing on that one. Um, so,
Oh man, that's great.
but,
Well, shoot, man, I've really enjoyed listening to everything, your whole career. Uh, it's been exciting for me. So you're one of those guys that I always looked up to, and you kept me in line, and made sure I was on the straight and narrow. So it's all good.
well, Andrew, again, I watched you from afar. You went on to be, pick up master guns, right?
Yeah, I
You
did.
know,
Yeah.
and you're doing successful uh, with your endeavors and telling the stories, facilitating this.
Hmm.
Uh, and like I said, I don't want to make mistakes. I do have a bad memory, but again, I knew you were at the pool. And
Yeah.
I knew you were running things, and again, the only thing I wish I could have found that picture because again, you look good in that photo. I think you were gunny then,
Yeah.
going
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, there's always great being around. You know, the guys I got to serve with.
Absolutely.
I hope I didn't. I don't think I brought up too much negative stuff.
No, you were.
Try to
It's
keep it light.
fantastic.
Try to keep it light and not too heavy.
Yeah. No, this
Um,
is good. No. No.
I encourage everyone to take advantage of all their benefits that they served.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
that GI Bill was a blessing. Because trust me, if I didn't have that,
You've been paying out of
who knows?
pocket.
Yeah, I'd be freaking paying back loans or some other who knows what.
Yeah,
Uh, so that was
it's a good point.
very good benefit they have.
Hmm.
But I was just fortunate enough to live long enough and see the finish line to take advantage of it. There's other
Right.
programs out there that a lot of people don't take advantage of. Uh,
Hmm.
again, the Marine Corps League thing, I don't know if that Murrieta chapter is the closest one, but maybe if I run into the Sword Major over that way, maybe he'll convince me to sign up. But
Yeah, there you go.
I did the American Legion before. I got the
Okay.
VFW thing going on here. Um, there's other little things here. But yeah,
Yeah, I had to put my plug in for the Marine Corps League since I'm got to do an ambassador for them. So
yeah,
it's
I know. I
all
see you
good.
touting it there. You got your little your guru there. What O'Laughlin, you know,
Yeah.
he's on there.
Yeah.
He's a card carrying member of all the Marine
I
Corps
think he's
moto
I think
clubs.
he's carries a membership to every veteran service organization out there. I'm
Yeah,
maybe not, but closely probably.
yeah, but
He's
yeah, like the guy was telling you, maybe you can catch Bedford and get him on your show because
yeah,
with the joke with him is all Marine wrestler, black belt McMap.
yeah.
He was one of my sergeant majors in Iraq. He was the ground
Okay.
combat element sergeant major. Uh, again, he's got a he had a good collegiate rear wrestling.
Hmm.
He wrestled Kurt Angle
Oh, really?
at NCAA. You know, this goes way back, right? But
Yeah.
I think Angle only beat him by a point. If you look at the bracket.
Wow.
Uh,
That's really cool.
but again, matchups are matchups. But like I said, he's a big card carrying member. But
Hmm.
the joke with him was his retirement. One of the generals said, "Hey, he was talking about Sergeant Major Benford, right? He was retiring.
Mm.
He goes, "Hey, you always find out something new about people, and today was the first time I just found out that Sergeant Major was an all Marine wrestler." And the whole crowd busted out laughing because that's the first thing he's going to tell you. You know what I'm saying? But he was joking about it. So,
Yeah.
but I think he'd do your show pretty good if you're able to track him down.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely try
Yeah,
to track him down.
first name's La Rock Benford.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah. I'll
he's a
I'll hit it
big
up.
personality.
Okay. I'm always looking for veterans to come on. I do 5 shows a week, so
Yeah.
if you know anybody that would be willing to share, I'm willing to listen. So
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and
yeah. Well,
yeah,
hey,
I wish you the
before
best.
we get off here, I always do these fully automatic rapid fire questions. So
Okay.
are you ready for this?
Well, you could rapid fire. It might be a slow response. Okay, go.
All right. What is your proudest military moment?
Oh man, over a 30-year career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
That's gonna be tough.
yeah, there's just so many little moments within in these big moments. I don't know if I can just
Yeah.
pin it down to one. I mean, just to make it to retirement.
Hmm.
Uh, that was pretty big. I mean, General Paxton, the assistant commandant, he was one of my former commanders, and he
Yeah.
retiring officer, and um, that just to get to that was a big deal. Um, just taking care of seeing other Marines go on to be successful, and I still see people out there doing or people that came behind me that doing well. Uh, we're probably more fitting that I know a lot of guys who were very successful and did good things. I just had the pleasure to work with them and see them do it. So yeah, my one
Digging it.
little moment, but not the. There's a lot of moments.
Yeah. Yeah. In 30 years, that's a whole lot of moments. So, all right, here we go. What is your most embarrassing military moment?
Well, I got a lot of those too. Uh, Matter of fact, back to swim qual. One of my most embarrassing when I when I went unk, and that was
Yeah.
1995. I
Oh,
must have
wow.
jumped back then. The tower at 20 Palms. I want to say that was like a 50-foot drop.
Oh,
Um,
my God.
it was big. When you climb to the
Yeah.
very top platform, I mean, it was the
Uh-huh.
tallest platform. They didn't go down to the lower ones, and you stepped off. Uh, but that day, plus you're doing the pack stuff and other stuff, so I didn't make it. I actually a hired an instructor, a swim instructor, and
Right.
I went to the pool out in town. And oh, by the way, the individual that taught me to swim
Hmm.
better was a captain who gave me my first alt max waiver in 1985.
No kidding.
He was retired Marine, And he taught me he said my buoyancy was like 2 feet under the water. So I had to work on slow movements, filling my lungs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I probably have more embarrassing ones. I just can't. But that's one of my failures that, that
Oh, that
that's
was good though. That was good.
or the
All
time
right.
on. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. No, no, no. Go ahead.
So when I went to NCO school, it was we're doing final events, and they're all graded, and the obstacle course
Uh-huh.
was one of them. And the first one, the bar. I always do the college boy roll, right?
All right. Yeah.
So the instructor goes, Corporal McCook, the record is whatever it was. He goes, I expect you to break it. I get up there, I get the college boy roll, I get about halfway up, my body comes back down. I run at it again, halfway up, back down. One of the other
Oh man.
instructors goes, I thought you said this guy was good. Then I had to chicken wing it, so I lost some time. So
Oh
that
man.
was embarrassing.
Yeah. I can't win them all, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right. If you could change one rule in the military, what would it be?
Well, that's almost tough, man. One rule? Hell,
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
not want
Just
to change
one.
just one. I'm going off the cuff.
All right. Yeah.
No mass punishment,
Mm,
and I'll tell you why. Well, and drill field, there's a lot of that. Right? One guy
yeah.
screws up, you punish everybody, right? But
That's right.
the one that got me one time, I was a first sergeant,
Hmm.
and you know, you got over 100 Marines in each of your company,
Right.
and one of the there's 5 companies in the battalion, and one company guy got a DUI, and that's
Hmm.
unfortunate. Well, the battalion made a policy that if somebody gets a DUI, the entire company comes in. They lose their weekend. They come in, and they're going to do. The individual who got the DUI is going to give a PME to the company.
Hmm.
Well, and that 2 or 3 companies already got thrown in the hot seat for that, and then one guy in my company got it. And then I said, you know what, enough's enough. So I went into the sergeant major. I said, hey, I said this mass punishment. Guy gets a DUI, but you secure their liberty for the weekend. I said, if this was such a great idea, the Marine Corps would have adopted it. He goes, the next battalion formation, battalion commander canked that policy.
Nice.
He got the drift.
Hmm.
You can't be doing this. It's mass punishment. It's
Yeah,
illegal.
absolutely.
Hold
Yeah.
people accountable for their actions. So that's my no mass punishment. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I like that because there's a lot of it, that's for sure. All right, let's see. What is one skill or lesson you learned that you still use today?
Well, it's probably more than one. I'll just say time management.
Ooh, that's a good
Time,
one.
you know, time management, reverse planning.
Hmm.
I'm not the most organized individual, but there I can anticipate how much time I'm going to need to get things done,
Right.
and just that type of. And where did I first learn that in real time? Was at that NCO school, where it
Mm,
was a 6 week deal at the
yeah.
time in the 80s, where they took us out to PT, they thrashed us to pretty good, O-cores times however many sit ups at the time before we went to crunches. And
Right.
what they did was we had an alpha inspection right after that. So
Uh-huh.
The Navy corpsmen led us through sit up drills while the instructors went back and got changed over for the
Right.
inspection. We got back to the Quonset huts where you had to run to the Quonset hut that had the showers, then
Uh-huh.
run back to your Quonset hut to put on your alphas, and then be in formation on the grinder in 5 minutes.
Oh my
And
God.
and we're filtering out to this formation 10, 15 minutes after, and they're up there on the steps looking down. Oh, they ain't gonna make it. Oh, and they just lambasted us for our time management.
Yeah.
You know, so
Oh, that's good. All right. In the zombie apocalypse, what would be your weapon of choice, and what anthem would be playing?
When you say anthem, you're talking some kind of rock star rock
Yeah,
ballad?
yeah. Whatever song
No.
that you would have playing behind you.
Well, I mean, I've been into the Metallica stuff.
Okay.
Whether it's For Whom the Bells Tolls, Master of Puppets.
Yeah.
As far as weapons go, geez, I guess whatever can disintegrate somebody, some high power, high velocity round
Yeah.
type of thing. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be out
Absolutely.
there swinging a sword or something. They'll run up on you.
That's right. Uh, all right. What animal best describes your time in service?
An animal.
Yeah. What animal?
I'll just be probably cliche. Uh, Devil dog.
Okay.
Just make
I
a.
like it.
I do have one. I don't know if you can see it, but there's one of my little staff sergeants. I said devil dog to the end when I was a staff sergeant. So I'll play it up. Yeah, devil dog. Joyful hundred.
I love it. All right. So looking back over everything, your whole career, your time that you spent, if you could do it all over again, would you do it?
Well, that's one of those hypotheticals.
Yeah.
Would I want to do it again? I wouldn't want to do it again. Knowing would I do it different? That's one of those back in time things.
Yeah.
And that's a tough question to answer because again, some people say, "Yeah, I'll do it. I would do it again." Yeah. Would I like to go back and have a do over? Maybe.
Hmm.
Would I do it again exactly? And again, we don't have. I just don't know if you could have that kind of vision
Yeah.
to really know what's ahead of you. And
Hmm.
then you got to take a time to look back and say, "Damn, and again, if I get religious on you, I could see where God worked in my life and
Oh yeah. Yeah,
guided
absolutely.
my steps and put people in my uh, there with me and
Right.
around me. So it's a little more dynamic than that. That I don't know that I can even say. What
Yeah.
am I glad I did what I did? Well, that's what I know. I mean,
Yeah.
that's my experience.
Hmm.
There, I could. I'm sure some people wish that we never crossed paths, and it goes both ways. That includes relationships, right? My exes.
Yeah, true. Very true. All right. Well, hey, thanks for coming on and doing this. I've had a blast. I don't know if you've enjoyed your time, but I've enjoyed it immensely. So thanks for doing this.
I enjoyed it. It made me think of a lot of things I forgot all about, but you kind of drew it out of me, and I do appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Do
Keep
you
in
have
touch.
any words of wisdom for everybody?
Not.
No.
I'll just say again. I get people I work with. I get some young guys. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they're because I work in a detention setting,
Mm-hmm.
providing services, but a lot of young folks in law enforcement. I'll tell them I tell them things I didn't do myself. Right, I'm a hypocrite. You know,
Yeah.
maybe save, invest, do a little
Mm-hmm.
better in that area. Uh, yeah, um, plan for the future.
Yeah.
Um, and take advantage of opportunities, but nothing earth shattering.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you again for doing this. I truly appreciate it. I don't leave. I'm going to talk to you after, but I'm going to do the outro real quick.
All right, Andrew. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. To all the listeners out there, if you're struggling, need help, anything like that, don't forget that the VA has some great resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can text 838-255, or you go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on the chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life loss is one too many. I care about you. I know James cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies you served with, ask them how they're doing. And if they need that helping hand, please give it to them. One last time, thank you very much for coming on. And to all the listeners, stay motivated, change your socks.